John.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. The President, on a few occasions, has spoken of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation as a witch hunt. And Hogan Gidley on your team used that same phrase today when asked a question about it. If Mr. Mueller asks the President to submit to an interview, is that something that the President would be open to?
Look, as we've said probably just about every day this year since we've been here, that we're going to be fully cooperative with the special counsel, and we're going to continue to do that throughout the process. But we're also not going to comment on who may or may not or could be interviewed at any point, but we're going to continue to be fully cooperative with the process.
If it is, Sarah, a witch hunt, as the President has said and as other members of the administration have said, why doesn't the President just get rid of Bob Mueller, just fire him? Mr. Gidley also said today that it's wasting taxpayers' money. In that regard, why doesn't he just end the investigation because it's wasting the taxpayers' money?
Look, we want to see this come to a complete and full conclusion. I think we all know what everybody in this room would do if the President did that, and I don't think that's helpful to the process. The President wants to see this end, and he wants to see them finally come to the same conclusion that I think most everyone in America has, that there is nothing to this. They've spent the better part, most of you have spent the better part of a year looking, digging, obsessing over trying to find something and have yet to find anything. In fact, a CNN reporter actually admitted over the weekend that when you talk to people about Russia, and that's all we talk about at CNN basically, they say they don't care because it doesn't have any effect on their lives. Frankly, this administration, we've said it time and time before, there was no collusion, there's nothing to it, we're ready to move on. Clearly the American people are, and my guess is some of you are probably tired of talking about it as well, and hopefully we'll get to that point soon and we can do that.
Sarah, the President tweeted today about these missing text messages at the FBI. He called it one of the biggest stories in a long time. Does he think there's a cover-up, or why does he think this is one of the biggest stories in a long time?
I think he thinks that there's a great cause for concern that 5 months worth of text messages have gone missing, particularly given the individual that has part of that process has already been shown to be extremely biased against the President and was involved in what seems to be some very inappropriate behavior, and that certainly is a great concern. You guys are absolutely obsessed with everything to do with collusion if it has anything to do with the President. We hope that you'll take some of that same obsession, energy, and fervor and direct it to some of the places where it looks like there could have been some really inappropriate and possibly illegal behavior.
Is there a follow-up on the FBI? Just a follow-up on the FBI. Does he think there needs to be a staff shakeup at the FBI?
Look, we have 100% confidence in Director Wray, and if anybody is going to make that decision, it'll be the director, and we're going to leave that in his hands to decide whether or not he feels that there need to be changes made.
But related to that, Sarah, does the President have any concerns about Andrew McCabe and his knowledge of or acceptance of what he and others in his administration have identified via the texts and other pieces of information as something that was seriously wrong in the upper echelons of the FBI?
We've spoken about the fact that we felt like the FBI at the top with Director Comey and others had been politicized. I haven't spoken with him directly about that, but certainly more generally speaking that it had become political. That was one of the reasons that the President wanted Director Wray there, so somebody of impeccable integrity, to make those decisions, and if changes needed to be made, he would do so.
And the President said today that Director Wray did not threaten to resign. How does he know that?
I guess that would be based on conversations that he would have had with Director Wray. I haven't been part of those, so I can't speak to it any further.
Did he ask Director Wray himself?
No, I'm saying I guess that would have been part of it. I haven't spoken to him, and I wasn't part of any conversations on that.
The only reason I ask is he may have had a conversation. I know he was here talking to Don McGahn, the White House counsel, and I'm just curious if the President went through McGahn to find out what that conversation was, or if he
Director
asked
Wray
the FBI director himself
to,
because he was concerned about these reports.
Director Wray is the head of the top law enforcement agency. It's very routine that he would speak to the White House counsel as well as the Attorney General. As I understand it, the conversations conversations they've had have been routine and focused on things dealing with his position, not whether or not he would keep it. So I can only speak to what I know, and anything further, you should ask the Department of Justice or the FBI on those conversations.
Sarah, just
Kristen.
to follow up on that, to ask you directly, does the president think that Andrew McCabe should step down?
I haven't asked him that question.
And you talked about concerns about the leadership previously at the FBI. Does the president have concerns about the current senior leadership at the FBI beyond Christopher Wray, not including Christopher Wray, he's expressed confidence in today?
We haven't gone member by member, but I know that the president has complete confidence in Director Wray in his ability to determine if there are any issues and to make those decisions.
Do you think there's current political bias against him at the FBI and the upper echelons of the FBI?
Again, I haven't gone member by member of every single person in the top ranks of the FBI. The president has a great deal of respect for the rank and file members of the FBI, and he has a great deal of confidence in Director Wray, and he feels that if any changes need to be made, the director will make that decision and carry them out. Kevin?
Sarah, thanks. This is something that's been in the news quite a bit over the last week or so. Representative Devin Nunes apparently has a memo that was created for the House Intelligence Committee describing, based on early reports, of a certain level of what appears to be bias at the FBI. Is it the president's opinion that that memo should be released so that the American people can see what the House Intelligence Committee has observed?
We certainly support full transparency, and we believe that that's at the House Intel Committee to make that decision at this point. And as I said yesterday, and we've said many times before on a number of different issues, we certainly support that transparency. It sounds like there are some members in the House that have some real concern with what's in that memo and feel very strongly that the American public should be privy to see it. And at this point, I haven't, but so I'm going to lean on these reliable individuals to go through that process of what that looks like. But again, we support full transparency on the matter.
Seen it by chance?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Sarah, follow up on that.
Sarah, apparently what the memo is based on is underlying intelligence or information that resides in the executive branch at the Justice Department. So as the original classification authority, would the president be willing to declassify it so the whole country can see it if he believes in transparency? That would take the question away from Representative Nunes and his colleagues in the House, and he could make it himself.
I haven't had that conversation with the president right now. I think it's going through the process through the House Intel Committee, and we feel like they should play that role at this point. And if it doesn't happen, then we can address it at that point. Cecilia.
The president said today nobody knows for sure whether they'll be able to reach a deal on DACA. Could this White House envision a scenario in which these dreamers are deported? Would that be something the president is okay with?
Look, I think the president has stated what he would like to see happen. And at this point, the president is willing to sign something to find a permanent solution for DACA, and he has placed the responsibility, which the Constitution has placed, and he has reminded Congress that it is their job to actually get that legislation passed and send it to him. Again, he's going to play a big role in the process, but it's on Congress to get that legislation through the two bodies and hit the president's desk.
And the budget director said today that the president's position on DACA depends on what the White House gets in an immigration deal. Is the White House using these dreamers as a bargaining chip? Is that the strategy?
Not at all, but you can't fix the problem if you just tinker with the immigration in a small way. We want to make sure that we're not having this problem and this conversation and this fight in 2 years and 3 years and 4 years. We want to address making a permanent solution to DACA, but at the same time closing the loophole so we don't have to continue having this battle. But we also want to put some things in place with border security, because if you don't, you're not actually solving the problem. You're just extending it and making us have to deal with it in a later time. John?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. A follow-up question on that. Several references were made and considerable publicity was given to the use of the term secret society within the FBI. Have you had any discussions with the president about it? And does he believe there is a secret society within the Federal Bureau of Investigation?
No, we have not discussed any secret societies, and I couldn't speak to their existence either. Steve?
Yes, Sarah. The president's about to speak to the Turkish President Erdogan about Turkey's offensive in Syria. What message does the president want to get across to Turkey about that?
Look, I think what I said yesterday, we want them to de-escalate. I think you can expect that to be part of the conversation, but I'm not going to get ahead of their call, and we'll have a readout after that takes place. I believe it's tomorrow. Yeah. Take one last question, Charlie.
Thank you, Sarah. Just to follow up to Kevin's question, if the House Intelligence Committee decides to release the memo, the president has to sign off on it. Is the White House committed to signing off on it if the House Republicans
Actually, my
decide to
understanding
release
is
it?
that he doesn't. So if they make that decision, that wouldn't be something the president would need to be involved in. So thank you guys so much. Have a good day.